My wife of 33 years betrayed me in the worst way possible. She said it was a mistake, begged for forgiveness, but I knew there was no way to recover from this. We had been married for over 3 decades, me, my wife Linda, 2 kids, and 2 grandkids who mean the world to us. We met back in the 1980s at a nightclub where I worked as a bouncer. Linda and I hit it off right away. After 2 months of dating, we moved in together. 2 years later, we tied the knot. Life was good. We worked hard, raised our kids, and found time to enjoy each other. Over time, though, my active lifestyle shifted. I went from working on my feet to sitting behind a desk, and the weight piled on. It got so bad that even being intimate with Linda became a struggle. I would get asthma attacks that made it impossible. We tried different ways to revive our sex life, but it never quite worked. Through it all, we remained faithful to each other. I had been cheated on in the past, and Linda knew infidelity was a line that could never be crossed. We promised each other we would stay true until the end. I truly believed we would grow old together, hand in hand. 33 years is a long time to be married, and I loved Linda more with every year that passed. After 2 decades of what felt like a dead bedroom, I made a decision: I was going to lose the weight. It took 2 years, but I dropped 176 pounds and even had a tummy tuck to deal with the excess skin. It might sound vain, but my reasons were simple. I wanted to see my grandkids grow up, take care of my health, and reignite the intimacy in our marriage. It worked. For the last 2 years, we were making love 3 or 4 times a week, and Linda seemed to enjoy every moment. I knew this because her reactions never lied. Linda often told me she still loved me, and I felt the same. I never once betrayed her, and I believed with every fiber of my being that she had been loyal to me, too. That was until 3 days ago. Linda went on a trip with her 2 sisters to another state. I had no problem with her going. I trusted her completely. She also knew that cheating was something we would never recover from, even after all these years. We had always been open with each other. We had apps on our phones to see each other's locations, not out of mistrust, but for safety. We shared everything: messages, emails, you name it. Trust had never been an issue. When I lost all that weight, I did notice that I was getting more attention from other women, but I never entertained it. I was happily married and told Linda as much whenever she seemed insecure about it. She had put on a little weight herself, but that never bothered me. I loved her for who she was, and I told her so every day. Our intimacy had become amazing, and I often regretted not making the effort sooner. 3 days ago, as I was driving home from work, my phone rang. It was Linda, and she sounded distraught. She asked if her sister had spoken to me. I told her no and asked why. That is when she dropped the bombshell: she had cheated. She said she was sorry and claimed she did not know what came over her. I pulled over, my heart sinking like a stone. She kept talking, explaining through sobs how it had happened. She and her sisters had been drinking at a bar when a married couple joined them. They stayed up until 2 in the morning, at which point Linda's sisters headed back to their hotel room. Linda stayed behind with the couple, continuing to drink and chat in their room. According to her, they were full of compliments, telling her how sexy she was and what a lucky man I was. Then, things turned physical. The man started touching her, and his wife encouraged it. They reassured Linda that no one would ever know and told her to enjoy herself. Linda said she felt like she was not even herself and ended up sleeping with the husband while the wife watched. The next morning, she woke up in their bed, horrified. She ran back to her room, where her sister saw her and demanded to know what had happened. Linda confessed everything to her sister, who then insisted she had to tell me, or she would do it herself. Linda told me all of this over the phone, crying uncontrollably and begging for my forgiveness. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. She kept saying how much she loved me, hated herself, and that it was the biggest mistake of her life. I sat there, numb, listening to her sob. Finally, I told her this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Then I hung up and turned off my phone. When I got home, I just sat in a chair, staring into nothing, trying to make sense of it all. I cried for the life I thought we had, for the woman I thought I knew, and for the future we had planned. It was all gone. My life, as I knew it, was over. For 2 days, I shut myself off from the world, ignoring the hundreds of messages from Linda and her sisters. The last message said she was on her way home. My kids had also been trying to reach me because Linda had called them, worried about me. When I finally called my kids back, I told them everything. I assured them I was okay, or as okay as I could be. I also told them that I was leaving the house before Linda got home. I needed time to process this and figure out what comes next. I asked them not to tell Linda where I was going. Then, I sent Linda a message, telling her we were getting a divorce. I told her I did not care about the details, and I did not want to hear from her anymore. I felt a pain so deep I could hardly breathe. Never in my life did I think her love for me could shatter so completely and so fast. Before I sat down to confront my wife, I had already spent hours talking with her sister Julie and Julie's husband, Mike. What Linda had told me when she first confessed was not the whole truth, no shock there. My kids, Emily and Ryan, were horrified by what had happened, but they stood by me, offering all the support I could have asked for. I reminded them, though, that as angry as they might feel toward their mom, she was still their mother and their children's grandmother. She loved them, and her betrayal of our marriage did not erase that. Linda and her sisters cut their trip short and returned home. I left a note on the kitchen counter, telling her to pack her things and stay at her mother's house. She did as I asked. Over the next few days, more details emerged, and it became clear that her version of the story had been watered down. When Julie confronted her, Linda broke down and confessed everything to her sister. That is when I learned the full truth. According to Julie, Linda said she loved me in our marriage but had not expected to cross this line. She blamed the vibrant sex life we had regained over the past 2 years for awakening something in her and it she felt she needed to scratch. She had always been the attractive one in our relationship, but she felt insecure now that those roles had reversed. Linda said she craved the feeling of being wanted by someone else. She swore up and down it was the first time she had done anything like this, but she admitted to planning it. This was not a drunken accident. It was a fantasy she had deliberately acted on, with no intention of ever telling me. What hit me hardest was learning that the couple she cheated with were actually customers of ours. I had never met them, but Linda had spoken to them often over the phone. She had gone to meet up with them under the pretense of drinks, but her sisters tagged along unexpectedly. To keep up appearances, they pretended to be strangers until her sisters left. Linda had a few drinks that night but was far from falling down drunk. This had been planned between all three of them before she ever left for that trip. Linda was coming by that afternoon to talk, and I was dreading it. She was reportedly beside herself, unsure of what would happen. But I already knew. She had made her choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. Her betrayal devastated me, but it also steeled my resolve. She lied, she cheated, and she destroyed our marriage. Her feelings of guilt, loss, and regret did not matter to me. She did this, and now we all had to deal with the fallout. When Linda arrived, she looked like a shell of the woman I had known, red-eyed, exhausted, and carrying the weight of her choices. Normally, I would have been the one to comfort her, but not this time. She walked in, crying, and tried to hug me, mumbling apologies and asking for forgiveness. I raised my hand and told her not to touch me and to sit down. She obeyed. I asked if she wanted a cup of coffee, and when she nodded, I made one for each of us. Her eyes never left me. As she started to speak, I cut her off and told her to answer my questions and listen. "This is not about you," I said. "This is about me and the marriage you destroyed." I made it clear that I had already decided we were done. She had made her decision when she cheated, and now it was my turn to make mine. I was determined to get the truth from her, even if she thought she had a chance to save what we had. I told her I had spoken to Julie, which was true, and that I had spoken to the couple she cheated with, a lie, but she did not know that. I felt a mix of emotions, relief, sadness, anger, and disappointment, but the calmness I displayed seemed to unnerve her the most. I asked her how many times she had been unfaithful. She admitted to sleeping with the man once and engaging in explicit video chats twice. When I asked her to explain how it began, she said it started as casual business conversations that turned flirtatious. Over a few months, it escalated to her watching the couple engage in sexual acts on video calls. Linda confessed that she had shared a fantasy of being intimate with the man while his wife watched, and they encouraged her to make it a reality. She was crying as she told me all of this, saying that the risk and danger made it exciting for her but that she had not expected it to go as far as it did. She started to bring up feelings of insecurity, but I stopped her short. "I do not want to hear your excuses or justifications," I said. After she took a moment to compose herself, she admitted that meeting them that night had been arranged in advance. Once her sisters left the bar, she went with the couple straight to their hotel room. I asked her if she ever planned to tell me, and she shook her head. "No," she whispered. "It was just something I thought I could do and forget about. I never thought it would come out." Her honesty, if you can even call it that, only made me feel more resolved. I told her I did not care how she felt or what she thought. At this point, nothing could change what had been done. I looked Linda directly in the eye and asked her a simple question: "Have you ever cheated on me before?" She shook her head and said, "Never." I told her that, at this point, it did not matter. Whether it was just this one time or 1,000, the damage was already done. "The only people who will suffer if you are lying," I said, "are the kids, your relationship with them, and your bond with the grandkids." I made it clear I did not believe her, but the truth had become irrelevant. It finally started to sink in for her. I had no intention of trying to save our marriage. That was when the begging began. She pleaded with me to give her another chance, said she would do whatever I wanted to make it work. She even went so far as to say she would let me have affairs if that is what it took. "I promise I will never do anything like this again," she cried. But I had heard enough. I stopped her and said, "Listen to what you are saying. You have already humiliated yourself enough. I am not interested in punishing you or evening the score. I would never cheat, and if I ever slept with another woman, it would mean we were separated and there was no coming back from it." I told her this was not something I was even considering. The idea of reconciling with her disgusted me. She reached out to grab my hand, and I pulled away. "Do not touch me," I told her. "I will never touch you again." It was not about judging anyone else's choices. People have open marriages or different arrangements, and that is their business. But that was never us. The trust and respect we had were destroyed the moment you decided to plan this, I said. I have always been a practical man, and in that moment, all I felt was relief. I told Linda we were going to make this process as simple as possible. She seemed to take this as a sign that there was still hope, but I quickly shut that down. "No," I said firmly. "We are finished. I will never touch you again, and I will never look at you the same way. The woman I married and loved for over 3 decades is gone. She died the moment you planned to be with another man." I told her the memories we shared would remain: our family vacations, building our first home, raising the kids, all the laughter and love, but that is all they would ever be, memories. I explained that from now on, we would live separate lives. "I look forward to the future," I told her, "and it will not include you. When I meet someone new, I hope to make new memories with her, and maybe even find love again." By now, Linda was shaking and crying uncontrollably, but it did not move me. I just wanted her out of my house. She could not even finish the conversation, so I left her sitting there and went down to the shed. I called my kids and explained what was happening. Both of them supported me and urged me to finalize things quickly and move on. When I went back inside, Linda was still crying and trying to plead her case. "I am sorry. We can work through this," she said. I sat her down and told her bluntly, "We are going to sell the house and the business and split everything 50-50. You can have the car, and I will keep the truck and motorcycle. The cats are yours." I made it clear she was not to contact me unless it was about the kids or grandkids. "I will get the lawyers involved and start the divorce process," I said. "You are free to be with anyone you want now. You are a free woman." Linda insisted she did not want anyone else and accused me of being cold and unkind. I told her I was simply being honest. "Your choices," I said, "are what created this situation. I loved you unconditionally, and you are the one who threw that away." I left the house so she could pack some things and went to my daughter Emily's place. I spent a few hours there, talking with her and playing with my granddaughter. By the time I returned home, Linda was gone. That night, for the first time in decades, I had the most peaceful sleep of my life and I was stunned. I sat there, staring at Linda, trying to process how she could even think that reconciliation was a possibility. "You are out of your mind," I finally said. "Do you have any idea how much damage you have done? You lied and cheated in the worst possible way. You invited another man into your life, into our marriage. You let him have what was meant to be mine, and his wife watched. How could you even imagine that I would want to touch you again after that?" Linda broke down, saying she should have never gone through with it, that she did not know what she was thinking, and that it was not even worth it. "I do not care if it was worth it or not," I told her. "You planned this. You chose to destroy what we had. There is no coming back from that." I made it clear there was no hope of reconciliation. "I want nothing to do with you, Linda. I am done with this marriage, and I am looking forward to moving on with my life without you." I could tell she was in denial, clinging to the idea that things could somehow return to normal. But the truth was clear, she had lost all control over the situation. Her actions had consequences, and she had no right to undo everything we had built together. What surprised me was the attention I began to receive from other women. While I had no interest in pursuing anything romantic or serious, it felt good to know I had options when the time came. Linda, of course, was furious when she heard that some of our mutual friends had stopped by to check on me, bringing dinner or just offering company. "You should get it out of your system," she said, "because I will still be here waiting." The audacity of it left me speechless. How could she be so deluded? The only thing I wanted out of my system was her. The emotions were still heavy: anger, disgust, sadness, and betrayal. But I am a strong man, and I knew I could deal with them. My focus now was on untangling myself from her financially and emotionally, and starting over. 3 months later, I am proud of how far I have come. The house is sold, the business is gone, and I am legally separated. While I am still waiting for the divorce process to run its course, for all intents and purposes, I am building a new life. I never thought I would be here, in this position, just a few months ago. Back then, I had what I thought was a good life, a wife I loved, a successful business, a nice home, and a future to look forward to. Then Linda's betrayal shattered it all. She not only hurt me but also our family. We had our struggles over the years, like any long-term couple, but I always thought we would make it through together. Her actions destroyed that hope. The loss was devastating, but in a way, it forced me to change for the better. This was not the life I wanted, but I have chosen to move forward. I have always been a man with strong values, and that has helped me through this transition. I refuse to wallow in self-pity or play the victim. That kind of thinking gets you nowhere. With the sale of the house and the business, I was able to buy 2 small properties close to my grandchildren. My son Ryan and daughter Emily live in different states with their families, so I wanted to be near enough to visit but still have my own space. I took a part-time job with a competitor of my former business, which leaves me plenty of time to enjoy life. During the weeks I had nothing planned, I jumped on my motorcycle and hit the road. I stopped for coffee, explored new places, and enjoyed quiet nights at pubs. It felt freeing to not have a destination or plan. What surprised me most was the casual dating scene. I never thought I would be the kind of guy to hook up, but I met a few women during my travels and spent time with them, no strings attached. It was just fun, and for the first time in a long time, I felt good. Some people have asked if I ever reached out to the couple Linda cheated with. The answer is no. I see no reason to. Her betrayal was her choice, not theirs. They mean nothing to me, and honestly, the best revenge is simply moving on and living well. Sure, I still think about what happened, but it no longer consumes me. My focus is on myself. Linda, on the other hand, seems stuck in her own delusions. She is convinced that, in time, I will miss her and take her back. I have made it clear to her that our marriage is over and that there is no chance of reconciliation. Whatever she does with her life is no longer my concern, and the same goes for mine. Emily has told me that Linda is still in denial, ashamed and embarrassed by what she did. She even asked Emily to try to convince me to reconsider. I told my daughter it will never happen. Linda is not remorseful because of what she did, she is only sorry she got caught and that I followed through with leaving her. This is not the life I expected, but it is a new beginning, and I am genuinely looking forward to what comes next.